Hi.
Hey, this is Michael Lindsay from Vital MX. I'm out here with the 2022 Kawasaki KX450X. This is the second year that this bike has been around for Kawasaki. It is unchanged from last year, but due to my return to media, this is actually my first opportunity to ride the bike, so I thought I'd share some of my opinions and thoughts on it. The KX450X has a very simple purpose. It is a KX450 motocross model that has been adapted for cross-country race use. Like many of the other manufacturers out there, they've started with their motocross platform, and they've just tweaked a few items to try to give that guy that's gonna go race off-road, maybe like on the West Coast, Big Six, Works, Little Hare and Hounds, or East Coast guys doing GNCC and other enduro-based series. So what that comes with is a bike that has an 18-inch rear wheel stock, and they've switched to Dunlop Geomax AT81 tires. The suspension settings are a little bit softer, a little bit more supple. It is the same basic components from the motocross bike, but on the Cowie they have softened the setting slightly, and they've dropped the spring rate both front and rear on this bike. The engine is identical to the motocross bike. The only difference is the mapping, and with that is the couplers. This bike actually has the black coupler on it from the motocross model, a little bit smoother power character. Other than that, we also have an O-ring chain and slightly different gearing. Instead of coming in with a 50-tooth rear sprocket, this has been geared up by one tooth to a 51 to, kind of help it be a little bit tighter overall power character in those lower gears, because the transmission ratio in this bike is the same as the motocross model. It's standard 5-speed, it is not a wider ratio, and it's not changed in any shape or form. So right off the bat, yes, it feels very much like the KX450. The type of terrain rode today, we're in that very lucky couple months of the year in California. We actually have some decent rain, and we've been getting quite a bit lately, so we're out in the hills. Got some turn tracks, some sandier ones, some hard pack ones, some single track on some ridge lines, a little bit dual track / fire roads, a couple sand tracks and trees. Just trying to mix it up with what we have available down here, other than just straight up going to the desert and bombing through sand whoops all day. The KX's motocross chassis that they've used on this bike, it's always been very supple. It's not exactly the most nimble bike out there. It's not meant to just turn tight into little inside ruts. It's just better when it's flowing, when it's rough. It's like I said, just got a little bit more natural comfort, absorption. It's a little bit longer feeling bike quite often. So it's definitely very stable when we're doing the fire roads or we're on the flowing trails kind of on the top of ridge lines. The bike's really at home, especially because of the power character. It's a lot snappier than I expected for an XC bike. Yes, they're running the mellower coupler, but it's not as mellow as you'd think, and it was a point of contention for me a little bit with riding this bike. Is the bike wants to bark a little bit more, wants to snap. It's really fun when you're riding like a little bit of a corner track, something that's a little bit more of like an aggressive GP style off-road. But when you're trying to creep around in ravines, climb up little hills, around little trees and stuff, it's very stuttery right off the bottom. When you're trying to lug it, you're expecting that real linear chug feel from an off-road bike. The KX450X doesn't quite have that, so it kind of jitters a little bit coming out of corners. And to be honest, I did stall it a few times, and honestly, if I were to spend some more time on it, I would want to research into using Kawasaki's programmer tool to try to smoothen out the bottom a little bit more on this bike. I just don't think they moved it far enough towards off-road. But like I said, for maybe the more moto guy that's taking this straight to some off-road races that likes more of the motocross character, the engine and the mapping particularly kind of keep it closer to the MX bike feel. So it's more rewarding when you see rollers and you try to blip over them, when you're trying to launch in and out of corners and use braking bumps to kind of bounce you in and out. It goes, yeah, and you can snap it around a lot more. But it's just a lot harder in the tight stuff to just roll on and try to keep the bike planted and flow as much. Suspension-wise, yes, it's definitely more comfortable in a sense. It is softer than an MX bike for a lot of the conditions here. But as I said, I feel like this bike is maybe leaned a little bit more towards high-speed situations. Bigger rolled-out sections, it works pretty darn good. But in the real tight square-edge chop, hitting rocks on little hill climbs and stuff, the rear is just overreactive. It's not plush enough. It doesn't absorb enough. It just kind of kicks out side to side, so it was hard to keep traction in some of the more technical sections than I would have liked. And I feel like it kind of suffers from one of the same things that the 450 motocross model does. The front end is a little bit softer than the rear. I wish that they would have maybe kept the fork spring rate and maybe the setting a little bit closer to the motocross model, because the moto bike is already a tick on the soft side in the front. With a softer rear, that would have balanced it out a little bit more. But again, with this bike, it feels like the rear is kind of overriding the front. Riding it more, I would slow down the rebound, open up the high speed. I'm running it at about 105, 106 sag right now. But my main areas of setup, if I start to ride this bike more often, would be focused on the rear, getting it calmed down, getting it slowed down and planted, which would help relieve the front end feeling so soft in some sections. Like I said, I'm in a little bit of a crossroads with this motorcycle because of all the XC models out there. It is the closest to its motocross brethren, which could be a good thing. If you're into Kawasaki's, like I said, you're going to go do just some of this off-road racing and you're just really looking for the basics, like I need the 18-inch rear wheel, I want to start with a platform that's maybe got a little bit softer suspension setting and is just a little bit more off the showroom floor to off-road racing, then this is going to be a decent pickup for you. Now, if you're one of those guys that picks these bikes up and actually plans on riding a little bit more trail style with it and mixing with moto, like I said, the power character is a little bit on the aggressive side, and then sadly the bike does not come with a bigger fuel tank like most of the XC models come with, and to me that is honestly the biggest drawback I feel like with this bike. I was really surprised to see them release an XC model without the big tank, or at least attempting something with a little bit larger capacity. At the end of the day, I think the Kawasaki platform is a great bike to go off-road racing with. I think the suspension components are really solid. It's really easy to set up for what you need. And the motor, naturally, even though I'm talking about the aggressive nature of it down low, the Kawi is fairly broad and easy to ride when it comes to a motocross bike. Like I said, though, I just feel like if we're talking XC bikes, this is the most aggressive feeling one out there right now, and if that's what you're looking for, then the KX450X might be the bike for you. If you're looking for that 450 moto bike that's just more compliant, that's a little bit easier to trail ride, I don't know if the 450X quite checks that box off. If you have any further questions on the KX450X, you want us to talk about any more aspects of it, you got any real fine questions on the comments I made in this video, throw it down below. I'd be more than happy to answer it. And if you like this piece, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and stay tuned to our channel for more bike reviews, product reviews, and race coverage from the upcoming Supercross series. Thanks for watching.